Ah, foolish mortal. So you have decided to brave the final night of Stephen King's Spooktacular! Well, I have a super scary story for you all. But first, I would like to answer a few of the internet's questions. First one is, Stephen King, what is your favorite movie of all time? Well, my favorite movie is a horror movie, actually. It's a tie between Casper the Friendly Ghost, Spirited Beginning, and Casper and Winding. If you haven't seen them, check them out. They're two of the most underrated movies of all time, in my opinion. The second question is, Stephen King, who is your favorite fictional character of all time? Oh, that's an easy one. Scrappy Dappy Doo. I think he's very brave, he's very funny, and he was really well written. If you haven't heard of him, check him out. The third and final question is, Stephen King, how do you get your hair like that? Just a lot of shampoo and conditioner. Or should I say shampoo? Anyways, here it is. The final tale of the three nights. Last time on the Fireside Tales, Jimmy Gord had willed a scarecrow into life, but it turned hostile, tired of the abuse landed on it by the farmer, and so it killed him, cutting his throat, and ran out into the forest, where it found a deer that it also killed, and then arrived at a farmyard, where it met a girl named Evelyn Russell. Evelyn Russell agreed not to tell on the Scarecrow. And that is where we shall begin our story. The little girl went to bed that night, wondering to herself if what she had seen was real or not just a nightmare. But the next morning when she woke and kissed her father and her mother and was going out to the barn, she went to the door slowly and opened it. And she looked around for a moment, and then the Scarecrow peeped its head out from behind some bags and walked towards her. It looked quite monstrous, like some creature that had walked its way out of hell, and it said to her, "Good you have returned. Get me some breakfast. I'm feeling the need for some eggs and bacon." She agreed, and she went back to the kitchen, and she stole a little egg and some bacon. And she went back to the creature, and they sat there together, and she said, "Have you committed the crime, the murder?" The Scarecrow looked at her as he ate and said, "Yes, I have, little girl. If you tell on me, I will make sure that you and your entire family are dead by the end of the week. But I will stay here for now," he said. "I don't know any place else to go." And anyways, she nodded her head and said, "Take as much time as you need. My father says that any person can be healed with faith." Scarecrow looked back at her. "No, child. Not all wounds can be healed by faith." She, again nodded her head and went back. The next week she spent with the Scarecrow. And as she spent it with him, he began to sort of become more comfortable around her. She showed him how to pet the cows and take care of them and milk them if he needed something to drink. The Scarecrow seemed quite lost, almost like something that had been forgotten. And it seemed that the only thing the Scarecrow liked, or tolerated at least, was that little girl. But word had gotten around, people had sighted the creature out while they had been walking on the path, and many of them had different theories. And finally it was Roscoe who gathered together some townspeople, and said they must chase after this creature, that they must find it, and burn it at the stake. Well, you can imagine that Evelyn Russell, although she still was quite afraid of the creature, and didn't like to spend as much time with it as maybe I'd been letting on, still could not help but feel sorry for it, for she could not believe that this creature could commit such monstrous actions. So one day she went to it and said, "There are people coming for you. Roscoe's got the whole town worked up. Says he's going to find out where you are and burn you at the stake." Anyways, the Scarecrow nodded his head and said, "Well then, I must be moving on." He got up and he began to walk away. "I would like to thank you, little girl, for keeping me here and doing this favor for me. I have no way to thank you, but if I could, I would." And as he walked out of the farmyard, he saw a bunch of horses coming forward, led by Roscoe. And he ran back into the barn, and he ran towards the girl and yelled, did you tell anyone that I was here?" And she assured him that she had not. And the Scarecrow looked around and said, "Very well." And he hid behind some boxes. At that moment, Roscoe came crying out, "Herbert! Herbert Russell!" And Herbert Russell walked out of his little house and said, "Is there something the matter, Roscoe?" And he said, "Yes. We have every reason to believe that the Scarecrow, whatever this thing is here. And we also have every reason to believe that it was the one that killed Jim Gord." And all the townspeople murmured in agreement. And Herbert said, "Well, again, we haven't seen the creature here at our little farmyard." But anyways, Jimmy Gord said, "Then do you mind," Roscoe said, "do you mind if I check that barn over there?" And Herbert said, "Well, be my guest." And so he went over there, and he opened up the barn door, and he looked around, and he looked over at the girl standing there, and he said, "Little girl, did you see this creature?" And she said, "No, I haven't seen it." And he nodded his head. But as he was standing there, he looked over and saw that there was something lying on the ground, a piece of shirt, and as he walked over, he looked and saw the Scarecrow standing there, and he yelled, "There you are!" And he grabbed hold of the Scarecrow and threw him down on the ground, and all at once he came towards him to attack him, but the Scarecrow was fighting now. He got forward and jumped up, and he started to attack the man, and then finally, Roscoe, he aimed his one kick, and he came to punch straight at the Scarecrow, but missed and hit the little girl. And this caused the Scarecrow to become quite angry. He grabbed hold of a pitchfork and stabbed Roscoe straight on the stomach. And then Roscoe yelled, "He's in here! He's in here!" finally giving up the fight. The townsfolk ran inside, and the Scarecrow made a run for it. He started climbing up the stairs, but they were chasing after him. And soon enough they came upon him. But they were in quite a fury now as they grabbed hold of him, and the Scarecrow yelled, "Damn you! Damn you all to hell! You'll never destroy things like me! Things like me will come back! That is a promise!" But by that time they had pulled the Scarecrow apart leg by leg, and they had torn off his head, they had smashed him into pieces. And when they were finished, they took the pieces and they burned them all. And as the little girl laid there, she looked up at Roscoe, and Roscoe said, "Are you all right, little girl?" She said, "I'm fine, but he was trying to protect me, don't you see? He didn't like that you hurt me." And he said, "Well, that thing, whatever it was, is gone now." They both looked into the ash, and the little girl would spend the rest of her life thinking about the Scarecrow, and as she would attend church and try her best to be a good human being, especially for her little sister, the story of the Scarecrow always stood out to her in her mind. And I do find it's a very sad story. I'm sure most of you do not feel sorry for the Scarecrow. But you must understand that for me it is a story I've just heard far too many times, and it always ends the same. So, good night to you all, and pleasant dreams.